Hi there, welcome to this edition of R&B Reviews. Today we'll be reviewing the latest remake, Nightmare on Elm Street, starring Jackie Earle Haley. And it's pretty much a remake of the original Nightmare on Elm Street. The main character, Nancy, is having nightmares and her friends are being butchered in their dreams by this mysterious character named Fred, who has a more than sinister connection to their past.
This remake, I started out liking it. I don't know. The story started interesting, and but then when we got to the middle, I felt like it just wasn't as interesting. Like, I think the problem with the movie were the two leads. There's Quentin and Nancy, she came across as very one note, one tone. I didn't find her interesting, and then by the time we got to the ending, I finally got back with interested in the story. I think the best acting for me, victim was Chris. She had emotion. She was scared. She was upset. I don't know how you felt about it, but Jack Earle Haley. The plus side was he didn't try to copy Robert Englund. He's playing it dead serious. Whenever he's after the kids, he's incredibly pissed off. No jokes. I felt like he was miscast in the role. In my opinion.
Yeah, I kind of felt since it really, to me, this is a movie that was made purely for the money. There is no artistic value here at all. I think they cast him because he became a lot more popular after Watchmen came out, and I think they immediately jumped on his success with that because anyone who's seen Watchmen knows he did a terrific job in that flick.
Yeah.
But this movie, they simply cast him in here because he was the
he
was the star of the month essentially when they were casting it.
One thing I noticed with Jack Earle Haley's performance is that it sounded like his voice was dubbed in post, because if you listen to the other characters, it sounds like it was done on the set. But here, except for the scenes where Freddy Krueger's still alive in the flashbacks, Jack Earle Haley's voice sounds like it was dubbed in, like it's deeper. It doesn't sound like it was done on the set. It sounded like it was done in post.
Yeah, they really played with it a lot, and you can definitely tell. And like what you brought up during the flashback scenes, it kind of feels like they recorded Haley stuff on set, and that stuff wasn't. But the burnt up Freddy Krueger, we know all his stuff is just the audio levels are so over the top.
Mm-hmm.
And let's get into the scares of this movie.
Yeah.
Not scary to me at all. I mean, yeah, it's got jump scares where you're like, oh wow, he's right there when he wasn't. The original didn't really have jump scares like that.
It was creepy.
Yeah, it was definitely a creepier tone than this one. This movie totally comes out of the Michael Bay Platinum Dunes, a factory for destroying classic films. They just redo it with a bunch of jump scares, and they introduce this idea of micro naps where you're dreaming, but you don't realize you're dreaming and you're really awake. And this is pretty much an excuse for micro scares. So Freddy kind of just pops out of anywhere now, and he can just kind of show up. There are some good remakes out there, but remakes are made because right now Hollywood is trying to save money. They get affected by the recession too, and they're trying to save money as much as possible on filmmaking processes, so they're looking for cheaper ways to make movies and faster ways to turn a buck. Mm-hmm. This movie was just another example, especially with the use of CGI, particularly in the infamous shot where Freddy comes through the wall. It was so obviously CGI, and it just had me rolling my eyes.
Yeah, compared to the original, when they did the same thing, it had a cloth, and he just went through.
Yeah, it was some sort of special fiber they put up and tightened over a board or something, and he just kind of leaned against it, and it created this really effective, a really effective scare in the movie. I mean, that's one of those images that stick in your head from it. This one, just lame CGI. I mean, it totally didn't even really frighten me. And the infamous tub scene with Freddy's claw coming up, they play it off really fast.
Yeah, that was a disappointment for me. In the original, they milked it for scares, but here, they really didn't. And I felt, his claw comes up from the tub, like in the original, but then they don't milk it for scares like they did in the original.
Yeah. And Freddy's innocence, and some people may consider this a spoiler, so you may want to, I guess, skip to another part of the video or something, but Freddy's guilt in the movie. I mean, in this movie, he's a child molester as opposed to a child killer in the original. But during the movie, when the kids first find out about Freddy, they assume he was innocent for his crimes. That I thought was really interesting. If Freddy was in fact innocent for these crimes and that he was wrongly murdered, and now he's sort of avenging his own death. And instead, they just kind of make him this just super evil guy, this evil child molester. And I think they're just trying to recreate these slasher characters and just make them, totally purely evil, as opposed to giving us somewhat of an interesting character.
Yeah, well, I like that in this case, that he's a child molester. I read that's what Wes Craven wanted in the original, but the studio made him change it to just a plain child murder, because I guess it was more controversial back then. But I mean, now you read about it a lot in the newspaper, and I like that kind of change to it. But to me, I just felt like he was wrong for the part, and the voice just drove me crazy.
I mean, the pacing was totally off, and it kind of it follows a character, you watch them have nightmares, then they get killed, then you move on to the next character.
Yeah.
And it repeats that formula until you get to Nancy and Quentin going back and forth, and that's where the movie really is. The dream sequences in this were a little disappointing. The cinematography looks nice and everything.
Yeah, it's not glossy.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely put some effort into it, but they didn't really put any effort into the script. I mean, it kind of felt like this was a movie made for the opening weekend. My verdict is totally just snuff it. I say just avoid it. If you want to see a Freddy Krueger movie, period, watch the first one and then just avoid anything else.
Okay, well, I agree with some of what you're saying, but I'm going to give it a rent it. I thought it was a nice watch. It is slow in the middle, and it does have some problems, but I kind of enjoyed it. I mean, this is the same problem I had with The Runaways. It was also directed by a music video director. It started out great. The middle got, music video-ish and not as good, and then the ending was good. So this was the same problem I had with this one. I believe the director's name was Samuel Bayer, and he's a music video director, and I believe this is his first film as a director, so I think that's probably my reaction to it. I mean, I think it's an okay movie. I think it's better than the other slasher movies and horror film remakes that we've seen recently.
Horror is dead now. Frankly, I'm just sitting back waiting for the next horror revival of sorts, because right now, remakes and sequels, that's the furthest thing from real horror or creativity. I mean, it's easier to pick up an old project and say, let's redo Freddy Krueger.
Okay, well, that's our take on it. He says you should snuff it, and I'm saying you can wait till it comes out on DVD, so you can tell us what you thought. Go ahead, leave your comments. What did you think of the movie? And, of course, leave your comments about the video. We'll see you next time.